We are doing number 4 here of these little trips, digital trips to Grapeville. This time we're going to see the old factory, and we're going to go inside the old factory. We'll be going in this door right here. This is in the courtyard, because inside this door is what's called the mold room. That's where they kept all the molds. There were these and a whole lot more there in that cellar. These are the things that the glass was pressed in these molds. This is a sketch I did of Charlie West Wilson. He was cataloging the molds for a book he was writing. Charlie was the grandson of Charles Howard West, one of the founders of the plant. This is the book Charlie wrote on Westmoreland glass by Charles West Wilson. I'll show you a few pages. This is some of the ware they made. In the earlier days, they made a lot of really nice stuff. They did things like this. High quality stuff. Some more things that they did. Toward when the time it shut down, the stuff they were making was not really all that memorable or worth noting. This is the inside of one of those molds that I was showing you, made out of iron, and then they would have a lot of machine work inside to do the fancy work that would make the design on the glass. That's the mold with the top and the plunger on, and that was put in a press where the plunger was pushed down to make sure that that glass went to the whole inside, covered. It filled up all the little nooks and crannies of the mold. This was a press. This was in the factory down there. I photographed that. That's what they used to push the plunger down in the press that would complete the process of making a piece of molded pressed glass. This was on the factory floor. That's what it looked like when the guys were working, bringing the glass out of the big old pot furnace and putting it in the molds and pressing it. That is one of the 2 big old pot furnaces right there. In these openings, each one of these openings would have a pot in it, and a lot of gas would come up and be ignited and melt the glass in each of those pots. And normally each pot would have a different kind of glass in it. They weren't making window glass there, they were making tableware, very different colored kind of things, many varieties. This is on the factory floor, looking at the base of a pot furnace, one of the furnaces out there at the factory. These were where the pots were in each of these bays. There were about 16 bays. Each had a pot in it. Now these are guys who could tell you a heck of a lot more about making glass out at the factory than I could. This was Don and John Dluski. They worked there. They made Westmoreland glass. You can see John has this snap with them, and it's resting on the arms of this thing, and they could spin that thing around and do finishing work on it, on a piece that had to be finished. And that's the kind of thing they were sitting at, that John was sitting at, and that's the side arms where he could roll the snap, which would roll the glass along and let him do the final little bits of forming. And that tells us that we've gone far enough. And we'll do another one, but that's enough for this time. I do have on the end about 2.5 minutes of a short video that shows one of the glass molds and how a piece of glass was actually formed in that. So just hang on. We'll have about 2.5 minutes more. Okay. Since we've been talking about things done in a glass factory and a little bit about how the glass pieces were made, I'm going to show you just a little bit about the process. I should mention that Westmoreland Glass was not in the business of making window glass. their big thing was tableware, the kind of stuff that was, you know, put on a well-set table, like a gravy boat and cream pitcher and salt cellars and all the things that would be the accoutrements of a nicely set table. And this is one of the things they made. This is a salt cellar. This was made in this very mold. I don't know if there's any possibility of seeing the inside of that, but you might. This was called a 1077 salt. That was the category that you would refer to if you were talking about that thing. Now, a little bit of glass, a little bit of molten glass would be put in that mold, and then the top would be put on the mold, and then comes the plunger. The job of the plunger is to force that molten glass into every little cranny and crevice in that mold. And that was done by putting this in a press. You saw a picture of a press previously in the little video we did. And when it was completely pushed down in here and things had cooled down, the thing would be taken apart and the glass would be taken out, and there would be some finishing processes that would have to be done too. And many pieces had to be cooled down slowly so that they could they wouldn't have bad tempering, and the annealing process would be carried out on them. And I think that's about enough, and we'll say so long.